Does slime love Jackie Wilson? Is the atomic weight of cobalt 58.9? Hey everybody, welcome to Mainely Movies. Today I'm going to be talking about the 1989 supernatural comedy sequel, Ghostbusters II. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. All my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all of that extra content. Ghostbusters II stars Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and Harold Ramis, and was directed by Ivan Reitman. Set 5 years after the events of the first film, it tells the story of the Ghostbusters as they reunite to once again attempt to save New York City and Dana from a ghostly supernatural threat. After the bizarre success of Ghostbusters, it's no surprise that we got a Ghostbusters 2. It is, however, a little surprising that it took as long as it did. I mean, in the grand scheme of cinema, 5 years for a sequel isn't that crazy, but it was a long time for this particular franchise. The real Ghostbusters, the animated TV show, helped to fill the void some, but it also escalated Ghostbusters mania by packaging it all in a way that could be marketable to kids. This not only changed the landscape and trajectory of what would eventually become the sequel, likely contributing to its toned-down nature, but it also made the lack of a sequel, pre-1989, that much more apparent. I can only imagine the anticipation that built, and the disappointment that it probably led to. I personally have never known a world in which Ghostbusters 2 didn't exist. This movie came out about half a year before I did, so I never had to wait and experience that anticipation for the sequel. As soon as I watched Ghostbusters as a kid, Ghostbusters 2 was ready and waiting. I certainly used to watch the original film far more frequently, but it wasn't until I revisited the sequel, probably in early college, that I realized I had watched Ghostbusters 2 more than I thought I had. Because I realized that for years prior, I had actually conflated the two films. Most of what was in my head was Ghostbusters 1, the story, the setup, the characters, but a lot of moments and gags from Ghostbusters 2 were mixed in with that. I thought it was mostly just a case of childhood conflation, which in part it was, but watching this film now, I can see why it was so easy for me to conflate the two. This sequel isn't exactly a rehash, but it's also not a rehash. The story's a little different, and the characters had already been established, but other than that, this film very much follows the same story beats and structure as its predecessor. We've got Dana needing help with a supernatural problem, the team coming together, 2 montage sequences that have the same purpose as in the first movie, dealings with the mayor and law enforcement. I mean, even the finale with a giant supernatural being walking through the streets of New York. In a way, some of the repetition is a little fun, but as a whole, it mostly just feels like a lesser version of the same story. I will say that it is nice to see the main threat of the film actually be a ghost this time, considering, Ghostbusters. But the story here just isn't good. The first movie had more than its share of bizarre elements, but this one manages to be even stranger, but not in a good or coherent way. When it isn't following the structural playbook of the first film, it's very random. And when it is following the playbook, it's dull. Not just because we've seen the elements before, but also because it makes those elements tedious and illogical this time around. I mean, after the events of the first film, how could anyone possibly think that these guys were con men, making all the paranormal stuff up? I know it's been 5 years, but do these people really not remember the giant evil marshmallow man destroying the city? And yet, disbelief in the Ghostbusters is a major recurring theme in this movie, and it's kind of frustrating. The film does try to incorporate some interesting plot and thematic elements revolving around the effect of emotional energy, but that does get buried by the less interesting components of the story. Surprisingly, in spite of all of the negative aspects, this film saw the return of most of the creative staff from the first film, as well as the majority of the large main cast. It was once again written by Ramis and Aykroyd, directed by Ivan Reitman, starred the 4 Ghostbusters, Dana, Janine, and Louis. The film should have benefited from this familiarity, allowing more time for character growth now that the introductions had already been taken care of, but instead, most of the characters, much like the story, feel like lesser retreads of their Ghostbusters 1 selves. There's still plenty of fun to be had, and some memorable lines, but everybody is hit or miss for me here. Honestly, Egon is the only one who's consistently entertaining for me, delivering almost all of my favorite lines from this film. And don't even get me started on Janusz. Louis was an irritating character for me for most of Ghostbusters 1, but Janusz makes him seem great. Ghostbusters 2 isn't a particularly good movie, but at least it's a watchable one that provides some degree of entertainment. When compared to the original film, it's a lesser movie in just about every regard, but that isn't the complete deal breaker that it sounds like it should be. Because for me, this is a movie of moments. The story's weak and the characters aren't all that great, but man does this film have some memorable and fun pieces. The river of slime and the jackhammer scene, the ghost train, the Titanic, the creepy Scoleri brothers, that feisty fur coat, and of course, the musically inclined National Monument. She's no Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, but Lady Liberty's small role in this film has always been one of the highlights for me. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. The biggest pro has got to be the occasional fun moments. I realize that's a little vague and pretty specific to me, but even though this film is underwhelming as a whole, it's got a lot of fun moments that can almost make you forget how iffy the film is when you're thinking back on it. The Jackie Wilson-obsessed Statue of Liberty is a clear standout here, but just about everything down in the old pneumatic transit line is fun too. It's a film whose overall story is pretty forgettable, but it's got enough memorable moments to make it alright for the occasional rewatch. On the con side, issue number 1 is Janusz. He might not be the biggest problem with the film, but he's certainly the most irritating for me. I know a lot of people find his character funny, but man is he annoying to me. He serves a very strange role in the actual plot, which ends up being kind of unnecessary, and other than that, he's basically just another awkward character whom Dana is stuck being subjected to the advances of, now that Louis is sort of one of the crew. The second con is a bit more substantial of an issue, but bothers me a little less than Janusz, and that's the story. It's watchable, but it's essentially a lesser rehash of the first film, missing most of the charm, edge, and spooky elements. And not that the first film was airtight in terms of logic, but this sequel is all over the place, and frequently feels random in its plot points, and the order of those plot points. At least Vigo the Carpathian is a ghost, rather than an interdimensional god. Before I give you my rating and recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying Ghostbusters 2 or any of the other films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. I'm gonna give Ghostbusters 2 2.5 out of 5 paws. The story and characters are definitely rehashes of the first Ghostbusters, and that honestly should put this closer to the 2-paw range, but there are some fun, memorable moments that help to keep this watchable and bring it up to mediocre level. I would recommend Ghostbusters 2 to people who like weird sci-fi comedies. This has a very strange and very late 80s vibe to it that will certainly appeal to some people more than others. I think fans of Ghostbusters 1 will be split on this. Some people will enjoy it because it is quite similar to the original. Nostalgia for the sequel won't hurt either. But other Ghostbusters fans will be very frustrated by that repetition and the weaker script. If you liked Ghostbusters 2, I've obviously got to recommend the original Ghostbusters. It's the one that kicked this franchise off and served as a very obvious template for the sequel. So if you like this one, you'll like Ghostbusters 1, because it does many of the same things, just better. If you want another lesser sci-fi sequel that involves getting the gang back together and rehashing, you should check out Men in Black 2. Interestingly enough, that one's also a sequel that came out 5 years after the original movie, and several years after an animated TV show. And if you liked some of the practical effects here and want another late 80s comedy with some spooky vibes, you might want to watch Beetlejuice. The story's quite different, but there are ghosts. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen Ghostbusters 2? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, which would be more terrifying to see walking through the city? The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man or the Statue of Liberty? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get a discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information out of this review, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe while you're at it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies, the way life should be.